Hello everyone, welcome to the video series on UFT automation. In this video, we will look more into the object repositories. We'll try to concentrate more around shared repositories and associating repositories to actions. So I have a blank test case here, and let me go ahead and prep the application. I want to be on the login screen. Okay, so now first I want to do is I will create a shared repository. So this time I'll go to resources and go to object repository manager. If I go to object repository, this by default displays the object repository of the action, which is action 1, but I don't want to look at the local object repository. I want to create an object repository. So you can use object repository manager for that. So by default it gives you an object repository 1, which just like it's when you try to create a notepad, you get untitled one. That's the same one, but you need to save it. So I'm going to use it. If you say file new, look at this, you have 2 there. I can close it. Now I have 1. I can close it. It's all blank. So it's a blank. It's just a manager to work with object repository. It's ORM, object repository manager. So file new. So new object repository. Now I want to create object repository with all the objects with flight reservation. What I'll do is I already have the login screen open. I'm going to click this plus icon here which says add objects, or you can go to objects and you can say add objects. It's up to you. Click on that. Now the UFT minimizes and it brings your application to foreground. Now if you click on the button OK, then all you get is a OK button, but our intention is to grab every object off that screen. So let us repeat the same step, and you already have a OK here. Add object, and this time I'll click on the form title. Login. I'm going to click. It doesn't matter where you click here on the title bar, click there. It will that will represent the whole dialog box. That's a dialog box. There's a difference between a dialog box and a regular Windows screen. Again, that depends on how the programmer did things in the background. So it brought the dialog box. I do OK. Now it's asking me what type of objects. Do you want to filter anything? I'll just do objects, all objects. I don't want to worry about filtering. I will let it grab everything. So it brought agent name. These are the 3 text fields: agent name, password, and static. And then you have a cancel, help. And let's identify where these are within the application. Let me move this around a little bit and do highlight in application. That's the whole form. Agent name, highlight. What is this static? Highlight. So that's the image that's representing the image. Cancel, you can see all that. And you have names. I'm going to fix these names real quick. At the end, I'll remove the colon for the password. I'll do the same thing, static. Instead of static, I'll say logo. You know what? I'll just say image. Then you change the name here, agent name. This is the text box. I'll say txt agent name. There's agent name here. That's the text at the top, but this is, you can see the icon, the edit icon. That's the editable field. I'll say txt agent name, and that's the text box, right? So that's why I put txt here. and I'll change this to txt as well, txt password. Okay, or because it's edit win edit, you can also say, if you want, you can say win edit, but I'll not do that, and you'll see why I'm saying that, because when you construct a statement to work with that object, you will see the object class there, so there's no need to put this there. So txt agent name and password, it's done. So let me go ahead and log in. Now once I have this screen here, I am going to do the same step. I want to click here, click on the title bar. That's fine. I'm going to do all object types, do OK. So it brought every object from that screen. Now as you go through, we can go through each one of these. I don't know what this mask add box means. It doesn't tell me, or it does not have a meaningful name. So while I'm actually doing this, I can fix a few things. I can first do a highlight. It says that's the date of flight. So instead of that, I'll say date, because there's only one date field. Then I don't know what this is. So that's a progress bar. I'll say progress. Airline. That's the label. These labels here are the text labels. You can, in programming, they do ABL, in the .NET programming, or in Java, when they develop these applications, they need to have some name to that particular text field. No, it's really the label. That's just a label for this text box. So for that, they will do airline. You can do the same thing, or you can actually say, because this is a text display, you can say text that, and for text box you can do TB text box. But again, it's up to you how you want to manage your objects, or the standards that a company might follow. I'll not go through each one of these objects here, but I'll skip all that and go to button, because it says button, but I don't know what that button is, right? So let me do the same thing. It's referring to these buttons. Let's go click on that. What is this button here for us? That is this button is pulling a report. So that's a report button. So we'll say button, we'll say report, and this thing, it puts a graph on the screen. Graph there. That thing, that's the delete. Okay, I believe now you're getting an idea on what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give meaningful names to these buttons, because when we actually code, it kind of really helps. Button order, because instead of these these names, instead of button underscore 4, we give a meaningful name, then our report or our script will use these new names. So that's the reason why I'm kind of giving some meaningful names. So that's fine. Let me do this one last one, and I'll be done with it. What does this help? Okay. So I'm done with this. I'll just leave this colon at the end for now. But let me fix what this is. That's the whole panel. So I really don't want that object in here. I don't need it. Then all these have names, so I'm good with it. And done. So these are all the objects from this particular screen. And let us do this, because when you search for flights, you get a dialog box here, flights table. We want to grab this as well. I'll do a plus, click on that. That object is inside the flight reservation, all objects, and you have flight table there, and pulled everything from there. And then let us, okay, I'm good with this. So I have all these objects now. It's called object repository. Let's save it. Click the save button. We're going to call it SOR, shared object repository, flight reservation. I'll just give it a number just for the heck of it. Reservation. Okay. And it's in our temp1. Save it. So now our object repository is saved. Okay. So now we have an object repository. Next, let us look at how we can associate or link that shared object repository to this particular action. It's very simple. See, associate repository with action. We can do that, or you can do resources, object repository, and here we can do objects. Sorry, the tools, associate repositories. So I have the option action 1 selected. Let me go ahead and create another action, new action, and I'll rename it, call it login, rename this one, call it book. It's gonna book a flight. So let me check the order. So login and this, that's good. Go to login, resources, object repository. That's a local object repository. It's blank. We didn't do any recording. What we'll do is tools, associate object repositories, and then I'll do plus here. Then I'll go pick this object repository, this one, SOR flight reservation 01 TSR. That's the last one that we did. Open. So now once we have this here, it's asking these are the available actions, and if we need to associate with every of these actions, then we need to move it to the right hand side. If you do this, then only associate, this shared object repository is now linked to the book action, but we want to apply it to all the actions within the test. We'll do that, and you can see it pulls up all the objects and displays to you here. Now because this is a shared object repository, it doesn't matter where you go, it's still displaying the same thing. And you can look at this here. See, that's the path of your shared object repository. So if you go to book, same thing. If you go to login, same thing. So now let us start recording. So now even before recording, we already have object repository that is linked to this. So we'll keep this here, and let us keep our application ready. Go ahead and take it to the login screen. Now within the login screen, so we're gonna so now let me do this. Let me no action. This is in it. This is where we start our test case. Take this to the top. Take this, drag it there. Click OK. Then you may be unable to continue working because call to action. That's interesting. Let me close this. Oh, not sure why I'm having this problem. Call to action. Okay. Move down. Okay, let me do this. Let me save this my new test and reopen this real quick. File. Close. File. Okay, this is the one. I'll click on that. And let me see if I can reorder these actions because I want this at the top. Okay, good. So I'll go there. I'll just put here that I'm going to prepare some notes. Okay, that's the one. Number one, I want init to start application, and then I want login. Then I want 3. The step 3 is book. So I need to do that. So I need 3 actions. There it'll start at book a flight, and then I will come back and fix this particular action. Now let us go into login. We want to start recording here. This is the login process. We'll hit record. Let me go ahead and cancel it. Let me open the repository so that you can see the fact that it does not add any objects because we already have objects. So I'm going to click record. Okay. So it's from, I already have application. Let me move this. Okay, it is recording. So I'll do test Mercury. As you can see, there's no action on the object repository side because we already have all those objects. There's nothing new that it's going to find as I work with this. As you can see, I'm going to put a date. See, there is no action here because it already has those objects, so it does not have to do anything. If there's any missing object that we might click, then it will definitely grab that. Set order. It's done. Hit file, close. So, and stop this. So now look at this. There's no change in the object repository. Number 1, you will not be able to edit anything inside this object repository. You'll not be able to delete anything because it's a shared object repository. You'll have to go back to object repository manager, and from there you need to open the object repository and make any changes if needed. Otherwise, from the actual test, you'll not be able to. So that is how you record here. And one interesting thing that you can see is that's the login process still here. Now this is not the login, it's the book a flight. I can actually copy this whole thing, go to book a flight, and this is action. I can paste it there, no issue. It will recognize all that. Or if you want, you can also do this. You can construct all these steps. So this book a flight is with flight reservation, and we want to work with first is to date field, where we need to pass the date, which is date. That's the date. We just grab and drop it there, and if you look at it, by default it says this is all the way till here. So with this object, if you're not sure if it is set or what, you just do control space, and then you have a handful of objects for you to work with. And that method is type. It's here. You don't have a set here. Type. Double click there, and then you need to pass a value. And it's a pretty standard way. You do a set or type, and you put a space and double quotes and give value to that particular object. So after the date, now you need to work with the fly from. So you don't have to, this doesn't have to be in sequence. You can actually do fly to, and then you can do fly from. It'll just work. So by default it's coming click. So you can do, so it's because it's a drop down, it's a select. Oh, it's interesting. I don't see the property. It doesn't have. It's interesting. I never noticed it. Okay, so you can drag and drop and build your own script as well. And now let me run the script because we just copied the steps from the where from the login action we grabbed all that and pasted it in here, and we had no issues. The action was able to recognize all the objects, so we know that it works. So let me go ahead and save the script and run it real quick. This will not start the application. I'll just go ahead and cancel that. In here I need to sysutil dot run, and I need the path to the test application. I'll just go in here and copy the path, paste it in there, and now it should work. Let me go ahead and run it real quick. It's done. So you might have noticed in the past that when we moved objects around, or I mean to say the generated script around, the system would not recognize those objects, because every action is local, and every action had its own local object repository. So when you move statements around, it will not recognize those objects. Now that we have a shared object repository and it's mapped to all the actions, book and login, so when you move these generator statements around, you'll not see any issue. Okay, so that's how you build or construct a shared repository, and then you associate it to use it across multiple actions. And also you can use the same object repository in a totally different test case. So just to show that it does work, so I just created an action called action 4, and as you can see, if I go here into object repository, it is all blank. There's nothing in there. So you can go here again, going back to object repository, and do tools and associate it. You can do this way, just like the way we did it for login and book. Or you can right click on the action and say associate object, associate repository with action. Click there and pick the one that you want to associate with, say open, say yes, and it's done. So now it's all linked to this object repository. If you now go to object repository, now you see, you can see the name here, the file name, the repository name, and all the objects are listed here. So, and I picked the wrong one. This is not the one we wanted to associate with. Let me do associate repository with action and pick the one above. And now if I go back to object repository, I should see both the forms, login and flight reservation. So okay, so you can add action and you can still associate. And let me do one other thing. Let me create a totally new test case, and let me go ahead and create a bunch of actions. Call to new action, call to new action. Okay, I have 5 actions there. I'll do resources, associate object repository, the third menu option, do a plus icon, pick the one I want, and I will pick and choose the actions that need to be associated with that particular repository. I'll just do all using this button, do OK. So that's just a quick recap on how you associate object repositories. So what we quick recap again, what we learned in this video is to kind of build a repository outside the test, which is nothing but a shared repository. Once we have all the objects in there, then you link that to your actions or test cases and then use it. So if you maintain one such object repository for the application, it doesn't matter how many test cases you have, you just link that one object repository, you will be set for the application. And anytime if there's any change within the application, all you have to do is go update that one object repository and you'll be done. All the test cases you don't even have to touch and worry about it, because they all use a central repository and they will automatically receive the change that you have put into the object repository. Well, I hope you enjoyed this object repository video. We will look more into object repositories in the next video. Until then, thank you. Thank you for watching this video.